It is time to start our series on Are You Afraid of the Dark? And we're going to cover every single episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? There are 65 episodes of the original series, which is what we're covering, that span from 1992 to 1996. There's also a revival series from 1999 to 2000, we'll do that one later, and the recent 2019 reboot, once again, later. But this is the original series. And Are You Afraid of the Dark is a Canadian, that's right, they made these in Canada, horror anthology show aimed at kids. So I won't be giving these ratings the way I do my other series like Black Mirror and Tales from the Dark Side, but we will review them and talk about which episodes are better than others. Production company of this series was a Canadian company called Sonar, but they sold it to Nickelodeon, and that's where it was broadcast. And all these episodes were filmed in British Columbia, Montreal, and Quebec. We're going to do these in order of how they aired in the United States. The first episode, The Tale of the Phantom Cab, premiering on August 15th of 1992. And we get the introduction to the Midnight Society. The leader of this Midnight Society is a guy by the name of Gary, and he has all his friends gather around a campfire in the woods, definitely not on a soundstage, and tell scary stories. The cast will be expanded upon later, but right now we have Gary as the leader, Eric, Betty Ann, Kiki, the hip-hop chick, and Kristen, the goody two-shoe. Throughout the series, they will explore each of the characters' different personalities, but you just get a glimpse of it right now. And they will each take turns telling a story, so you get to learn a little bit about each of these characters and how different they are. And watching this series as an adult, it actually is impressive how much thought they put into this. Because not only does each character have a distinct personality, they tell a different type of story. So Kristen, the goody two-shoe girl, she likes ghost stories and fairy tales. Hers are going to be a little more tame, because she's a little more tame herself. Kiki, the more tomboyish girl, tells stories with a lot of danger and double crossing. Her stories also tend to feature people, well, that look like her. So, African American stories. But the person who's going to be telling this story is a guy by the name of Frank, who's brought in by his friend Gary. And he's blindfolded. In fact, he's blindfolded this entire episode. Usually they just do it at the beginning, blindfold him, because, they don't want other people to know where this Midnight Society is meeting and then come and, because then maybe their parents would grab them by the ears and send them to their room with no dinner. So Frank is going to tell the first story, and it better be a good one, because if he wants to get it in with this Midnight Society, it better be a good, scary story, and they're all going to rate it with a Gladiator, Joaquin Phoenix, thumbs up or thumbs down. And if you get a thumbs down, oh man, you have to go play with the other uncool kids and not get to hang out with these pimps. So he begins to tell his story, and every episode has a nice title card. And it starts off with the bad boy, Danny Crocker, and you can tell he's a bad boy because he's got a part in the middle of his hair, and his little brother Buzz, and they've gotten lost in the woods. There's really three parts to this story: them being lost in the woods, them running into a fantasy setting, and then, as the title suggests, them getting into this cab. So it is a quite creative tale. So after Danny Crocker and Buzz wander around the woods for a little bit, they run into a guy, someone that can help them. His name's Flynn. And Flynn leads them to, where do you think? If you guessed a little hobbit house, you would be correct. So here's where it takes a fantasy turn. As I mentioned before, there's kind of three parts to this episode, which does make it quite unique, since you really don't know where it's going. It's called the Phantom Cab, yet we're out in the middle of the woods, and now we're in Lord of the Rings. Where's there going to be a cab? So in this hut is a jolly old man by the name of Dr. Vic. Well, an evil jolly old man. Dr. Vic is played by Aaron Tagger, who we will actually see in the very next episode as the Carney. The Tale of Laughing in the Dark, the one with the clown. So we'll see him this episode and the next one. He was also in the 2000 X-Men as the MC, and gets the award for person who definitely should have been in Lord of the Rings but wasn't award. And Dr. Vic actually has a phone. It's a really old phone, but he says they can use it. But they have to first solve a riddle. And it's actually quite a good riddle. He asks, what's weightless? Can be seen by the naked eye. And if put in a barrel, will make it lighter. Well, luckily for me, we're in 2025, so I can just Google it. And the answer is a hole. I don't know why they just didn't Google it in 1992. They had cell phones back then, right? Really large ones. And this is quite a good riddle, because it mostly makes sense. I mean, I guess a hole is weightless once you cut a hole and remove that part. And here's where we get the part with the cab. They can't solve it, so he kicks them out of his little hobbit cottage and tells them to go into the woods to get this Phantom Cab. And I think this is the best part of the episode, where they do a quite thrilling cab ride. We also get the first introduction of the Are You Afraid of the Dark scream. They do this twice in this episode, and they'll do this constantly. I don't know if this is a 90s thing or something, but someone will do something kind of scary, like Dr. Vic shows them a hand in a jar, and they go, like that scene of like Troll 2. And they hold it way too long. They do this constantly, just get used to it. Another reason I'm not going to comment on the acting of the kids. For the most part, it's not great. But kid actors are kid actors. After all, they're from Canada anyways. What do you expect? That was a joke. I love Canadians. And it's Flynn again, the guy they met in the woods. And this time he's looking very ghostly. He turns in a pretty scary performance. In fact, they do a kind of ripoff of The Exorcist where he turns his head around to show him that he's dead. And they have to solve this riddle before he apparently is going to crash this cab into a tree. And this part is quite good. You see some footage of the cab zipping around the woods. They're trying to figure this out. The older brother is completely useless because he's a doofus. But the younger brother is quite smart, and he's getting onto something. He can figure this one out. And he does figure it out at the last moment. It saves the day. So I'm not going to do ratings on Are You Afraid of the Dark like I've done with the other series I've covered, Black Mirror and Tales from the Dark Side, but I do think this is quite a good episode. I would say above average. It just makes the flaw that a lot of debut episodes make in anthology shows, where they just start with an episode that they shouldn't start with. They should have started with the second one that I'm going to review next week. One of the most famous episodes. It's one everyone remembers because it has a very memorable villain. What this one's lacking is, well, a memorable villain. I think Flynn's pretty good at the end when he's a ghost, but Dr. Vic comes off almost too jolly and goofy looking to really be super scary. But getting sort of 3 stories in one, woods, fantasy, and then this ghost cab, I think is quite original, and I enjoyed this one quite a bit, and I'd never seen it before, so definitely check it out. After all, it is the first episode. Oh, and we have to check in to see, did Frank get into the Midnight Society? Are they going to give him a thumbs up, or are they going to give him a thumbs down? Well, they give him a thumbs up. He's all good. So he's now going to join us for the duration of this season. Here's a few fun facts. This is the only time a Midnight Society member's last name is mentioned. And this was one that I noticed. This is the only time a Midnight Society, in this case Frank, remains blindfolded throughout the entire storytelling. Sometimes cut to the Midnight Society and they'll talk about the episode. They do this in most of the episodes from what I can see. And it does a good job of breaking it up. They don't do it very often. They do an introduction. Usually in the middle they'll say something, and then at the end. So they let the story flow through. But it is weird to see him telling the story blindfolded, is so that he doesn't let all the other people know where this campfire is in the middle of the woods. But once he's there, you can take the blindfold off. What's he going to do? See a bunch of people in a campfire? And the other episodes, the characters that are inducted don't have to remain blindfolded, which was a good choice. And this is a funny one. At the beginning, Gary mentions that they don't all go to the same school or have the same friends or see each other, making it seem like this is the only time they come together. But actually that changes in the later seasons. They do some activities outside of this gathering, and specifically some romance blossoms. Ooh, imagine if you had to date a girl and the only date you could go on is hanging around the campfire telling stories. That's not that fun. I want to do other stuff. Alright, let's look at some reviews. Let's see what people on the internet think about the Phantom Cab. This is the highest rated review on IMDb. 6 out of 10, the one that started it all. Like the title says, it's the one that started one of the best kids series ever to grace our television screens. Maybe the best. Far from being the best episode, it was at least decent storyline, and what made it watchable is the character of Dr. Vic. So that's interesting. I like the cab driver. He liked Dr. Vic, the Hobbit guy. There's a few riddles that make it fun to watch and try to figure out. I like the fact that the riddles aren't completely brain dead. Like, I couldn't figure out the one with the barrel. Maybe I should have figured out that the answer was a hole, but I can't figure it out, and I'm a freaking genius. I don't think kids would be able to either. The cab driver I found pretty good and did his part very well indeed. Again, a decent start to an excellent series. Like a lot of reviews here, the casting for the kids actors could have been better, but it was still not bad, watching them all over again, so we'll review episode for episode as free time is had. 6 out of 10, The Phantom Cab. Yes, well, it was made in 1992, so throughout the coverage of this series, we're going to get a lot of 90s bad boys where they go, "Hey, dirtbag, what are you doing? Don't be a jerk, Prescott. Give me my Game Boy back." It's kind of nostalgic if you think about it, since we're going to be covering every single episode in this series. Next up is episode 2, The Tale of Laughing in the Dark. As you can see right here, a top-rated episode. 8.3. Why? Because of the clown. It's the clown one, and he's quite scary. So check that one out next week. Thanks a lot. Also check out our playlist for the other series that we've covered. Monsters, Fear Itself, Black Mirror, Mystery Science Theater 3000, Cowboy Bebop, Pet Shop of Horrors, and Tales from the Dark Side. Thanks a lot.